If you were the Bengals, is there any offer the Dolphins could make? Because, Mark, they got parts, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
They've got
David.
resources.
David, there really is. I mean, I'd be greedy. I'd start with everything.
Well, what's everything?
All three ones in your two.
Okay,
I mean,
done. No, but that's the thing, though. It you know, is that what it would take? Or are you saying that's the start?
David, I have to be honest. You want to come get Burrow, and you're going to give me three ones and a two? I'm
Yeah.
going to look at that offer pretty damn hard. Do you think
Well,
that
but
that's enough? I think it is.
yeah, I think it is too. First off, if you're the see, as Pat pointed out a couple of weeks ago, when the first whispers of the Dolphins are pretty enamored with Burrow, and Burrow seems a little interested in them too. He keeps liking certain things. They make a signing, Burrow likes it. Things like that. There was a tweet out there about the Dolphins and Burrow liked it. So it's almost as if Burrow is like sending signals like, hey, if you want to come for me, I'm fine with that.
I
I got no problems playing for you.
I do think what Pat talked about, if I'm Cincinnati, I can't make the deal until Miami picks. My quarterback, if it's Herbert, has to be there at 5. I would draft Burrow and say, look I'll trade him, but I can't trade him until I know. I make the trade the minute Herbert's available after the 4th pick. It's done. We walk it in and we make that trade. I cannot go down to 5 and take the chance that I don't get anybody.
Well, and here's the funny thing then. Let's just play along, in which we've got a deal worked out if the Dolphins can get their hands on Herbert. Because the Bengals had Herbert at the Senior Bowl. The Bengals and the Lions, I believe, were the two coaching staffs at the Senior Bowl. How ironic is that at 1 and 3? And so the Bengals were the ones, though, that worked with Herbert.
Well, I think the Raiders were there last year, right? 2 years ago.
I believe so.
Yeah, that's right. I don't think you can go.
Year, I thought. And they had the 3 ones last year also. They kept them all, as it turned out, and had a really good draft. But so if the Bengals are like, hey, we got no problems turning this thing over to Justin Herbert, no problems at all. So if you want to give us 3 ones and a 2, you get your hands on Herbert at 5. And if you're the Dolphins, can you take the chance and stay at 5? I mean, if you're all in on Burrow, don't you at least, like the Giants traded away their 3rd-round pick in what looks like an ill-fated deal for defensive tackle Leonard Williams. Now, they have a compensatory 3rd, but that's at the very end of the round. The Giants traded away their early 3rd-round pick. If you're the Dolphins, if you're all in on Burrow, and let's just say, Mark, the price tag is what you said it is. It's basically your whole 1st and 2nd round this year. Your 3 ones and a 2. Okay. You may, if you're the Dolphins, also have to give up your 3rd to move up to 4 to guarantee that you get your hands on Herbert. So it could end up being 3 ones, a 2, and a 3 even. To get your hands on Herbert so that you could send Herbert to Cincinnati and you could get your hands on Joe Burrow. But even if it's just 3 ones and a 2, if you're the Bengals, see, this is the danger, Mark. Okay, you say, well, it's going to take 3 ones and a 2. And when they say, okay, that's a deal. Now, you can come back and him and haw and what have you, and the Dolphins go, hey, come on now. We sat down. We said, what's it going to take? Well, you said 3 ones and a 2, and we said, got it.
That's why I would, and as the more you've talked this out, David, I would probably be a little more outlandish and say, I want your 3 ones, your 2, and your 1 next year. At least giving them something that they've got to counter with. Knowing that what I want is the 3 ones and the 2. I'm not as worried. I mean, if you said yes, great.
Okay, so we have a deal, though. We're going to end up with a deal at 3 ones and a 2. If you're Cincinnati, are you comfortable with that? I'm making you Cincinnati.
Yes.
Okay. I'm not. One, I'm not a Herbert guy. Two, Joe Burrow's from Ohio. My whole fan base, which hasn't been excited for 2 or 3 years, is excited about getting Joe Burrow. And I'm secretly trying to get a stadium built. Our lease is up in 7 years. I want a new stadium. I don't think I can get it with Justin Herbert. I think I can get it with Joe Burrow.
Now, David, you asked me what I would do. Now,
right.
I wouldn't trade the first overall pick. I'm just telling you what I think they would ask is that they are the ones enamored with Herbert. I'm not either, David, for what it's worth. You watch a little more closely. I'll take your word on quarterbacks. You've had a pretty good track record on this. But the games I watched him play, we talked about it during the season. There was nothing this guy did that made me ooh and ah when he played against good teams. But the fact remains that it seems that the Bengals are very enamored with this young man.
Exactly.
So would I do it? Hell no. Joe Burrow's, what you said, he's from Ohio. You put that kid on your roster and you sell tickets. I mean, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers just sold out their whole season in an hour and a half. Without having to go sign a big-time free agent, the Bengals can do it by just putting a card to the desk. Or however they're going to do it this year.
Right. Click of a mouse, whatever it is. But now, then there's the other side. If you're the Dolphins, would you give that up?
I don't think they can.
Now, see, I would for this reason. It's the one position you've got to get right. Evidence, the Chicago Bears.
Oh, you're right.
Sorry. There it is. You get it wrong, it doesn't matter everything else you do. It doesn't. Doesn't matter your signings. Doesn't matter how well you draft, the whole deal. If you are convinced he's the guy. Because look at it this way, Mark. How many times when you're a general manager, and let's assume you've got the gig for 10 years, how many times in 10 years will you be in position to get the quarterback that you want? The guy. Matt Miller of NFL Draft Scout said Joe Burrow's the highest rated quarterback coming out of the draft since Andrew Luck. Now, whether he is or not, to him, he is. And you know how I felt about Andrew Luck. So if you're Chris Greer, if he's the guy, Ernie Accorsi famously said he was in position to draft Elway, and his owner basically said, yeah, this isn't going to work out, this, that, and the other thing, and he was forced to trade John Elway. Technically, he drafted him, but it wasn't going to work between the two teams. So then 21 years later, he's sitting at number 4, and he wants Eli Manning desperately. And he's like, I got to trade up to get him. I waited 21 years to be in position to get the guy that I want. And if you're Chris Greer, this is your draft. This is the draft for you to get your hands on your quarterback, because if you don't in this draft, when will you conceivably be close enough again? You're thinking that your losing is about to stop. So you're going to start drafting in the 10s and the teens and all that. So in theory, this is the last time you're in the top 5 if you're Chris Greer.
David, I hear everything you're saying. And maybe it's just time from the season to now, and that is a very dangerous thing when you start picking at quarterbacks. And Joe Burrow's year was like one we've never seen. It's the only one. It is a very small sample size. And how many receivers that he threw to are going in the first round?
Well, put it this way. Two wideouts, a tight end, and a running back are likely all drafted in the top 50.
Right.
No, he had some talent around him.
And the coach who's in the NFL, the coach did so well, he's in the NFL.
Well, he came from the NFL,
right.
and now he's back.
Yeah,
in
he
the
came
NFL.
in the NFL. He took this quarterback, looked at the system, looked at the receivers, and said, "We're going to implement this, and you're going to be great."
Right.
And he was. We were tanking for Tua at the beginning of the year.
Right.
And if I'm the Miami Dolphins, I'm still going to 3 to get Tua.
Okay. So you're not giving up all of your ones and or a second or third round pick to move all the way up to 1 and getting Burrow, but you're willing to give up one of those ones
to get Tua.
To move up to get Tua. Okay. And here's my thing. I'm a Tua guy. But if Chris Greer's a Joe Burrow guy, there's nothing he can give up that I would criticize him for. Nothing.
But you're asking me what out of the 2 I would do. I'm going with Tua. I am.
Okay. Fair enough. We bring it up because the whispers that have been out there apparently are a little bit more than that. And we will talk about it a little bit later on in the show. Dave Hyde will join us to talk about the Dolphins and just how real does he believe that this is, that the Dolphins wanting to make a big play to move up to 1 to get their hands on Joe Burrow. The NFL draft, by the way, 3 weeks from tomorrow. 3 weeks from tomorrow, which would make it March 54th.
And which will be 6 weeks to the day that we have ended everything.
Well, yes.
Because the game was played tonight. The NBA game, they canceled it, or they found out tonight, canceled it during.
A few of the games got canceled. A couple got played.
Right. But by the end of the night, the NBA had canceled the rest of or had suspended their season. By the time tomorrow had come, all hell had broken loose. So it will be 42 days between sports and the draft.
Right. Wow. Or as we call it, March 54th. That's when the draft is taking place, March 54th through 56th.
At Studio 54, sorry.
April has opted out. We talk about free agents who opt out of their contract. April is Everson Griffin. They had a good enough 2019 that they have opted out of their 2020 contract. On this Wednesday, March 32nd, or for some of you, April 1st. And can you really play an April Fool's joke this year?
Yeah, David, I still may go wake my daughter up and tell her to run into her mom's room and tell her that she wet the bed and get mom to jump up and frantically come up and yell April Fools. It's about all I got right now.
I'll tell you what, if you pull an April Fool's joke today, one, if you're close enough to someone to pull an April Fool's joke today, that in and of itself is a good thing. And secondly, see, to me, you're going to get a big reaction today. You're going to get it both ways, but you're going to get a big reaction if you can pull one off on this day. A hump day edition of Miller and Moulton. The starting 5 is next. Thanks so much for waking up with us. Miller and Moulton on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.